What would you do if the land you bought with your life savings was not truly yours? That was the question haunting Boon Whitmore as his horse carried him across the last mile of dusty trail. 3 long days of travel had led him here, to the edge of a property he had been told was empty, but what he saw waiting on the porch of the farmhouse made his blood run cold. 3 women stood side by side, tall and broad-shouldered, like guardians of a hidden fortress. Their silhouettes cut sharp lines against the afternoon sun. They were not frightened or surprised to see him. No, they stood as if they had been expecting him all along. Boon tightened his grip on the reins, his weathered hands calloused from years of labor. The deed to this farm rested in his saddlebag, stamped and sealed by the territorial office. It was supposed to mean something. It was supposed to be his fresh start. After years of loneliness, drifting from ranch to ranch, this land was going to be his chance to build a future he could finally call his own. But as his horse slowed near the gate, the tallest of the 3 women stepped forward. Her frame was strong enough to wrestle a steer, her arms muscled from hard work, her blue eyes cold as winter ice. She didn't look like a woman defending a home. She looked like a woman defending a claim. "You must be Boon Whitmore," she said, her voice steady and certain. The way she spoke his name chilled him. He hadn't told anyone he was coming. The man who sold him this land, Marcus Vance, had assured him the property was remote, private, and abandoned. No neighbors for miles. No curious eyes. So how did they know who he was? The other 2 women shifted behind her. One had dark hair braided neatly down her back, her shoulders wide like a blacksmith's. The other, a redhead freckled from sun, carried herself with the restless tension of someone who trusted no one. Together they watched him in silence, their gazes sharp, measuring, unblinking. Boon cleared his throat, trying to keep his voice calm, though unease prickled his skin. "There must be some mistake. This here is my land. I bought it fair and square. Got the deed right here." He pulled the folded document from his saddlebag, lifting it like a shield. The seal was bright, the ink fresh. It was supposed to give him authority. Yet somehow, under their piercing stares, the paper felt like a scrap of nothing. The tall woman's lips curled into a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "We know all about that deed. Marcus told us you'd be coming," he promised. Promised. The word hit him heavier than a hammer. Promised what? Boon shifted uneasily in the saddle. "He promised me land. He promised me a chance to start over." The redhead laughed, a low, bitter sound. "That may be what he told you. But Marcus Vance made other promises too. Promises he never kept." The dark-haired woman stepped forward now, her presence carrying weight like thunderclouds before a storm. "We've been here for years, working this soil, keeping it alive. Marcus said he'd stand with us. Said he'd build a future here. But when it came time to honor his word, he vanished." Boon felt the first crack of doubt wedge itself into his chest. Marcus had sold him this land at a price far too low for the improvements he now saw. A well-dug irrigation ditch cutting across the field, sturdy fencing enclosing healthy cattle, and a farmhouse that showed clear signs of recent care. None of this looked abandoned. None of this looked forgotten. "Look," Boon said, dismounting slowly, keeping his voice firm but respectful. "I don't know what Marcus told you, but I bought this place clean. I paid in full. Whatever business you had with him, it ain't mine." The tall woman's smile vanished, replaced with something harder. "Out here, papers and seals mean less than sweat and sacrifice. Marcus left us with more than broken words. He left us with debts. And now he's left us with you." Boon's stomach twisted. "Debts!" The word echoed in his ears. Was this why Marcus had been so eager to sell? Was this why he had refused to answer certain questions? The women exchanged glances, and Boon felt the weight of unspoken truths pressing down on him. Whatever arrangement Marcus had made with them, he was tangled in it now. The redhead crossed her arms, her green eyes fixed on him. "Marcus told us the next man who set foot here would take his place. That was the deal." His words, not ours. Boon's jaw tightened. "That may have been his deal, but it wasn't mine." The dark-haired woman tilted her head, her expression unreadable. "You're far from town, Boon. Far from law. Out here, survival doesn't follow rules written on paper. It follows the rules we make for ourselves." The silence that followed was heavy, filled with tension, and something more unsettling. Expectation. Boon's gaze moved from one woman to the next, studying the set of their jaws, the flicker of something raw in their eyes. These weren't bandits or squatters. These were people who had been wronged, betrayed, maybe even abandoned. And now, for reasons he didn't yet understand, they believed he was bound to the same fate as Marcus Vance. The sun dipped lower, painting the yard in orange light. The air grew heavy, the kind of quiet that precedes a storm. Boon realized then that this was no simple misunderstanding. This was a trap he had ridden straight into, and the only question now was whether he could escape it, or if, in some strange and terrifying way, he even wanted to. Boon spent that first night on the edge of the farm, sitting by a small fire with his horse tied close. He could not bring himself to sleep inside the farmhouse, not under the watchful eyes of the three women who seemed to know more about his fate than he did. Their words lingered in his mind, circling like vultures. Marcus promised. Marcus left debts. The next man takes his place. The crackle of the fire did nothing to ease the unease twisting in his chest. He stared at the deed again, tracing the seal with his thumb. It felt like a cruel joke now, a ticket to trouble rather than the future he had dreamed of. At dawn, he decided he could not sit idle. He saddled up and rode into the fields. The land was fertile, carefully tended. Crops sprouted in neat rows. The fences were solid, the barn roof patched with care. Whoever had been working here had poured heart and soul into it. He could not deny that. But whose land was it truly? His, by paper and law. Theirs, by sweat and sacrifice. As he circled back, the women were already waiting near the barn. The tall one, with the piercing blue eyes, stepped forward again. "You stayed," she said simply, as if noting a fact. Boon narrowed his eyes. "I don't scare easy." The redhead smirked. "Good. You'll need that." Her words sent a shiver up his spine. He dismounted and faced them square. "I want answers. What debt did Marcus leave behind?" For the first time, silence fell among them. They looked at one another, as if deciding whether he deserved the truth. Finally, the dark-haired woman spoke, her voice low, carrying a weight that made the air feel heavy. "Marcus promised to protect us. Years back, we struck a deal. We worked this land, kept it alive, kept it producing. In return, he gave his word that, when trouble came, he'd stand by us. He promised this farm was ours as much as his Boon's jaw clenched. And what trouble are you talking about?" The redhead spat into the dirt, her freckled face tight with anger. "The Blackhorn Gang. Rustlers, killers, men with no mercy. They came riding through, demanding a share. Marcus told them he'd fight, told them they'd answer to him if they ever set foot here again." Her eyes burned as she continued. "But when they came back, Marcus wasn't here. He sold the land instead. Sold it to you. And left us standing alone." The words struck Boon like a hammer. He suddenly understood why the price had been so low, why Marcus had hurried the deal through. He hadn't just sold land, he had sold a burden. The tall woman's voice was steady but filled with something deeper than anger. "The Blackhorns are coming back. They said they'd return by the end of summer to collect what Marcus owed. And when they do, they won't care about deeds or papers. They'll burn this place to the ground, with us on it." Boon's heart pounded. He had walked into a trap indeed, not of the women's making, but of Marcus's betrayal. He glanced at the farmhouse, the barn, the fields of crops. It was more than land. It was life. And these three women had been holding it together with nothing but grit and stubborn will. "You think I'm going to take Marcus's place?" Boon said, his voice low. The tall woman's blue eyes locked on his. "You already have. Whether you like it or not." The weight of her words pressed down on him like a mountain. He thought of leaving, of walking away, of cutting his losses. But something in the way they looked at him, tired, angry, yet unbroken, made it impossible. That night, as the sun bled across the sky in shades of fire, Boon sat at the edge of the porch. The three women moved about the yard, finishing chores with practiced ease. He felt the tension between them and him, an invisible thread pulling tighter with every passing hour. He could ride away tomorrow, leave this cursed farm behind. Or he could stay and face the Blackhorns, a gang ruthless enough to strike fear in hardened men. It wasn't the life he had chosen. But maybe, just maybe, it was the life that had chosen him. The first signs of danger came at dawn 2 weeks later. A distant rumble of hooves rolled across the prairie, shaking the ground beneath the farmhouse like the warning growl of a wolf before the strike. Boon stood at the fence line with his rifle in hand, the cold steel steady against his palm. Behind him, the three women worked silently, securing the barn doors, pulling the livestock into cover, and readying the few weapons they had. The Blackhorn Gang was coming. Dust rose in the distance, a dark cloud against the pale horizon. The riders grew clearer with each passing second. Hard men with scarred faces, rifles slung across their saddles, bandanas tied over their mouths. At the head rode a broad man with a black hat pulled low, his coat long and tattered, his eyes burning with the hunger of a predator. "That's Reddick," the tall woman whispered. Her voice carried no fear, only a cold certainty. Leader of the Blackhorns, Boon studied the women around him. They stood without trembling, their eyes sharp, their hands steady. Whatever Marcus had promised them, whatever betrayal they had suffered, they had not broken. And now, somehow, they were his to protect. The gang thundered closer until they reined up at the edge of the field. Reddick leaned forward in his saddle, his voice deep and mocking. "Well, well. Looks like Marcus finally made good on his word." Left a caretaker behind, his gaze drifted over the women, then settled on Boon. "But you ain't Marcus. Who are you?" Boon stepped forward, shoulders squared, rifle resting in his arms. "Name's Boon Whitmore. Here's my land now," Reddick laughed, the sound sharp and cruel. "Your land? Son, Marcus owed us more than land. He owed blood. He promised payment. And when he didn't deliver, he promised we'd take it ourselves. You plan on keeping his word." Boon's jaw tightened. Marcus's promises died with him. "But this land won't be yours. Not while I'm standing on it." The gang erupted in jeers, mocking his courage. Reddick's smile twisted into something darker. "Then you'll die on it." The standoff shattered as gunfire cracked through the morning air. Boon dove behind the fence post, firing back with steady aim. Bullets whined past his ears, splintering wood, tearing into the dirt. The women fought beside him, moving with practiced coordination. The redhead picked targets with deadly precision, dropping one rider from his saddle. The dark-haired woman reloaded calmly, her shots measured and sure. The tall one, fierce as a storm, fired from the barn roof, raining down lead on the attackers. The Blackhorns pressed hard, circling like wolves, but the defenders held. Smoke filled the air, the roar of rifles blending with the cries of men and horses. Boon's heart thundered in his chest, yet his hands never shook. He had faced fights before, but never one where so much was at stake: land, honor, and the lives of three women who had been abandoned once already. He would not abandon them again. Reddick charged forward, firing wildly, his men following close. Boon rose from cover, sighted down his rifle, and squeezed the trigger. The shot struck true, tearing Reddick from his horse. The gang faltered, panic spreading like fire. Within minutes the survivors fled, leaving their leader bleeding in the dirt. Silence fell heavy over the farm. The air reeked of gunpowder, the ground littered with the scars of battle. Boon lowered his rifle, chest heaving, sweat streaking his dust-covered face. Slowly, the three women emerged from their positions, their eyes meeting his. The redhead wiped blood from her cheek and gave him a rare smile. "Guess Marcus chose better than we thought." The dark-haired woman nodded, her voice steady. "You didn't run." The tall woman stepped closer, her piercing blue eyes softer now, filled with something Boone hadn't seen before. Respect this land was never truly Marcus's. "It's ours, and now it's yours too." Boone looked at the farmhouse, the barn, the fields that stretched wide beneath the morning sun. He had come here searching for a fresh start. What he had found was something far greater, a purpose worth fighting for, and a bond forged in blood and fire. The Blackhorns would not return, not soon, not ever. And if they did, they would find not one man, not 3 women, but a family standing against them. Boon Whitmore was no longer alone. The ranch was his. The women were his allies. And together, they had carved out a place in the unforgiving heart of the Wild West that no man could take from them.